areas that they pretend they are, while constantly ragging on red states. Of course, the two most popular being Texas and Florida, as being fascistic hellscapes with horrible, tyrannical leaders in Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis. If that were true, why is it that so many people are leaving Democrat states and Democrat cities? I mean, just think about it. Think about all the fear-mongering. Don't move to Texas. With all that voter suppression, you won't be able to participate in democracy. Don't move to Texas with all the gunslinging. It's a war zone, folks. Don't move to Texas. There's no abortion on demand. How will you possibly live your life? Well, it seems as though, despite all the Democrat fear-mongering, hundreds of thousands, and over the years, millions of individuals, millions of Americans, are fleeing these, quote, liberal utopias for the greener pastures of red states. And we just got the numbers to show just how significant it really is. So this is what I want to talk about for this video, and more specifically, I want to talk about this phenomenon of don't California my Texas, don't New York my Florida. A lot of people seem really worried about this, but what if I told you that that phenomenon is actually not happening at all? Let me show you guys exactly what I mean. But of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. With that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this right over here from Breitbart News. Census data is officially in, and 1% of California's population moved out of the state in 2021.
Well, not so golden. For only the second time ever, California saw a drop in population between July of 2020 and July of this year. And for the first time, LA and the San Francisco Bay Area lost residents in the same time period. Now, that's according to new data released today by the state. State population went down by 173,000.
California lost 1% of its population over the last year as residents fled for other states, the United States Census Bureau revealed this week. While California's population stands at more than 39.5 million, a record high, the state lost more than 367,000 residents over the last year. The state's population decline is among the largest in the nation. In 2021, 20 states and the District of Columbia lost residents via net domestic migration. The largest domestic migration losses were as follows. Let's just look at the chart. And of course, just the chart itself is worth 1,000 words. Whenever we're talking about Democrat strongholds, whenever we're talking about Democrat states, we always refer specifically to three places: California, New York, and Illinois. The bluest of blue states, the Democrat strongholds, are leaking voters. Meanwhile, of course, on the flip side, Florida and Texas are absolutely booming in terms of population growth. Out of the top 10 states and territories with the most population decline from July 2020 to July 2021, 8 are run either by Democrat legislatures or Democrat governors or both. And of the 10 states with the most population growth in the last year, 9 are run by Republican governors and Republican majority legislatures. Los Angeles and San Francisco Bay Area lost some of their populations amid the COVID-19 pandemic recent. Data found, according to the Associated Press. And see, that right there is what's important, folks. People who are living in red Republican California suburbs aren't fleeing. The people who are fleeing California are those living in the Democrat high-density population centers. These are people who are leaving because of Democrat policies. Unaffordable housing, high taxes, crime spiking through the roof, homelessness, substance abuse, business regulation, and of course failing schools are among the reasons. People are done with Democrat policies, and this is the most important thing to focus on, folks. A lot of people who are living in Florida and Texas are absolutely mortified with the idea of their states flipping blue. Of course, as I stated in the intro, don't California my Texas, don't New York my Florida. And I know that people are worried about this because I made a video a couple weeks ago about Gordon Ramsay moving his business headquarters from California to Texas. That video had more dislikes than normal. I mean, it wasn't really like a shocking number of dislikes, but a little bit more than normal. You could tell that some people weren't exactly on board with it. And as I scoured through the comments, I constantly kept seeing over and over again, we don't want Californians in Texas. We don't want their politics. We don't want them to California our Texas. They better leave their politics before they move to Texas. And while I totally understand the concern, we've been covering this phenomenon for a while, and I've showed you guys this study many times. New poll finds that all those people moving to Texas aren't going to be voting for Democrats. Democrats. It is no secret that pro-growth policies, low taxes, and light regulation burden have propelled population growth in Texas and Florida, while the opposite has occurred in California, Illinois, and New York. Elected officials' response to the COVID-19 likely accelerated this trend in 2020, with Florida and Texas netting more than half of the nation's 1.15 million population increase from mid-2019 to mid-2020. The Texas Public Policy Foundation has conducted 2 polls of registered voters to test attitudes between natives and non-natives. Its January 2020 poll of 800 registered voters found that native Texans supported President Trump over Hillary Clinton by a 7-point margin compared to transplants who supported Trump by a 12-point margin. Folks, as crazy as this sounds and as hard as it might be to believe, at least when you initially look at this data, people who are fleeing California, New York, and Illinois, people who are willing to pack everything up, upend their lives, and restart anew in a red state, are not Democrat voters. They are people who are fleeing Democrat policies, and they are people who are voting red at a higher rate than Texas natives themselves and Florida natives. These people are not turning Texas and Florida blue. They are turning Texas and Florida more red. And that is the harsh lesson that Democrats learned in the 2020 election. They spent millions upon millions of dollars trying to turn Texas blue. But of course it was all in